What's up guys, Jonny May here from Piano with Jonny, and welcome to this week's quick tip where we're talking about major and minor chords. And guys, so many pianists, when they read chords, they play them like this. Okay? They play straight major and minor chords. And guys, there's nothing wrong with this, but there's a much cooler way to play these same chords. And it works on so much contemporary and pop music. What we're going to do, guys, first here is we're going to talk about a chord chart. This is a typical chord chart that you might see in a popular song, and it basically follows this progression which I was just playing. If you want to play these chords with me, I'm playing like a C major chord, you know, I go to an F major chord. These are all just inversions of major chords, something that, once again, you'll see in a pop tune. Okay, the chord progression is C to F major, A minor to G major. I'm doing some nice open fifths in the bottom here. Then I go to a 3 chord E minor to F major, okay, and then D minor to G major. Okay, so once again, a very typical sort of pop chord progression that you'll see in contemporary music. This is a 1-4-6-5-3-4 2-5 chord progression, okay? And so what I did, guys, is I wrote here in the lesson sheet music just a typical way. I would say most pianists I hear play chords like this. They'll put the C major here, and then they'll just do kind of this open position in the bottom. Or like, and then like on their F chord they'll go, and then A minor, and then they might do G here. Okay? And they play this kind of open sound with octaves in the left hand. Here's their E minor, okay, which is cool. That's their F chord. D minor they might play here. Okay, and their G chord they might play here. Okay? And there's all kinds of ways that you can change the rhythm on this. You know, you might go like, okay? But what I want to get at here, guys, are the chords that you can use to make this sound much more interesting. And what it is it's a combination of sus chords, okay? And there are 2 sus chords, and then tenths in the left hand, okay? So let's talk about these kind of what I call money chords. It just makes it so much more interesting. The first chord that you need to know is called a C sus2, and it's basically like a C major, which you'd put the 3rd in the middle of the chord, but you drop it, you suspend it down to a D. We call this a C sus2. And so we're going to use this chord instead in the right hand, and then the other chord we need to know is a C sus4. It's a C, F, and a G, okay? So these are the 2 chords that you need in the right hand to make this chord progression more interesting. And the second thing that we really want to do with these chords in the left hand is use tenths. Okay, so we're going to talk about using tenths here in a minute, but what I wanted to do, guys, is go back to this chord progression and go ahead and use these sus chords in your right hand over this kind of octave pattern and listen to how much cooler it sounds. Okay, let's go ahead and do the C sus2 on our first chord. Okay, it sounds a little more open, sounds a little more interesting. And then on the F chord, we'll use a C sus4. Okay? It's a little more thoughtful. It's a little bit more, you know, contemplative to play it like this rather than, you know, a big F major happy chord. Okay? It's got a cool sound. It's definitely a sound that I would prefer. On the A minor chord, I would use this C sus2. Okay? Turns it into a beautiful A minor with an added, what we call 11, but don't worry too much about that. But this is what I want you to use on your 6th chord, is a C sus2. And then on your G chord, use a C sus2, okay? It turns it into a G, kind of a cooler sounding G chord as opposed to that, okay? Now, on the E minor, guys, okay, we're gonna go to a C sus2, but in the left hand, this is really important, is don't use the B in the middle, okay? Most pianists on an E minor chord or a 3 chord, they play it like that. What I want you to think of this chord as, instead of an E minor, is think of it as a C over an E chord. And so what you're going to do is on the middle note use a C, and you get that sound, okay? It's much cooler, okay? And put the C sus2 on the top. Then we go to F. Okay, we're going to use this C sus4 on the F chord, okay? D minor. Okay, we're going to use the same C sus4 on the D minor chord, and then on your G chord, go back to your C sus2, okay? So once more, guys, on your 1 chord, use C sus2. On the 4 chord, use C sus4. Okay. On your 6 chord, use C sus2. And on your 5 chord, use a C sus4. You guys with me? Now on your 3 chord, use C sus2. Put the C in the middle, makes it a lot more interesting. Then the F, use C sus4. D minor, use C sus4. And then the G chord, use C sus4, okay? And it makes it so much cooler, guys. Now, rather than just playing straight major chords, you're going... You guys see what I'm doing? You can play chords here. You know, come up with some cool grooves. You can also arpeggiate the chords. Okay, you can also change the order of the chords. So already we're getting a much cooler sound out of these chords. The other thing that's very cool to do, guys, on these chords is what I said earlier, which is to do a 10th chord, okay? And so now instead of just going root, 5th, root on the bottom, I'm grabbing the 10th interval, okay? Or the 3rd of the chord, it's the same thing. The 3rd of the chord, like a C major, root, 3rd, and 5th, the 3rd is also the 10th if you play it like this. And so if you go through your chords, C with the 10th, then F with the 10th, A minor. You guys seen this? G major, C over E. I would play it like this. So you've got a nice open sounding C chord, that's a 10th interval to F, D minor 10th, and then your G 10th, okay? And so what we do here, guys, is with these 10ths, now you get the full chord in your left hand, meaning we get all of the primary chord tones, C, E, and G, F, A, C, E, and G, B, D, but they're spread out. So it creates a really nice foundation, and then when we do these sus chords in the right hand, it sounds much more full. So let's go ahead and do these sus chords now with the 10ths, and now you'll really make this chord progression sing. Check out what this sounds like. Gorgeous, guys, so much more interesting. So if you're playing chord progressions, let's say you play in a worship band at church, oftentimes they have chord progressions like this, or if you're just playing popular music, you're going to see the chords, play them in these ways. In other words, play the 1 chord as a sus2, the 4 chord as a sus4, and basically what I said to do earlier. Also, guys, you can play multiple positions of these chords. You can use an extended position chord, so now instead of putting the chord like that, you put it up here. Okay? And then for the F, it's going to be there, and then come down here, G. All I'm doing, guys, is I'm inverting the chord in my right hand. So all I'm doing is taking, before we had the C on the bottom, and I'm putting it on the top, okay? And then we have to adjust between the D and the F depending on the chord. All right, guys, this concludes this week's quick tip. And if you guys enjoyed this lesson, I want to encourage you to check out the 1 Chord Wonder course at pianowithjohnny.com, where we do a much deeper dive of this concept. We talk about various chord progressions that you can use these chords over, popular chord progressions. We talk about the walk down progression, which I call the love progression. It's used in a ton of different love songs. We do the walking up progression. Okay? We talk about different grooves, different arpeggiated patterns, different positions for these chords. It is a really, really cool course. Also, guys, be sure to check out our other courses at pianowithjohnny.com. We currently have over 150 courses in contemporary piano, pop, blues, jazz, theory, technique, improvisation. Guys, it is the full learning platform, and we have lessons for all playing levels. Also, be sure to check out our membership. This gives you unlimited access to our courses, plus you get to be part of our live monthly events. And every month we do a live Q&A where you can ask me your practice questions. We do a live workshop lesson where you can ask me questions during the lesson. We have ear training exercises. Guys, it is the full platform. So be sure to check out Piano with Johnny. I'll put a link to that below, and I'll see you guys in the next quick tip.